There are many benefits from this digital world. Shops are now increasingly tracking our behaviour. It's not just Amazon telling you what you might like to buy next. The way products are put on shelves, what you buy with your credit cards, all those things are known by the major retailers. You have store cards, and of course they do know where you live because they usually deliver to you. On the delivery thing, logistics has burgeoned into a completely separate industry over the last few years, to the point where you can actually find where the package is as it's being delivered to you, so that you know when you're not in that it has been delivered. The location of your car can be monitored very easily using automatic number plate recognition systems. You can be nicked for speeding even if you're not there, and if you stray off the main roads within London, you will be done for congestion charging. These are all arguable benefits. The one that is coming without doubt, and probably many of you have received a letter in the last couple of months about this, is that the National Health Service is bringing together all its data sources so that they can actually watch your health in a longitudinal sense and actually find out a lot more about you and maybe get to you before some of these diseases and illnesses of old age, which we're going to suffer from, kick in. So lots and lots of things there. So hopefully at this point, if you're not scared, you don't have any imagination, but if you're not scared, the point is that these things are challenges to our society. They are very, very difficult. They are not simple issues. And as such, they require a very large number of skills, expertise, working together to address them. And these are the sorts of issues that mostly governments address. They are big enough to be able to be legislated for, bought, regulated, change tax policy, whatever. Those government actions change the markets which companies play in, and those solutions to those problems therefore have real value. But the problem is, how do you start with, we're going to be a lot older, and get to a solution? How do you start with the fact that we're going to have to build more houses, but they're going to have considerably less energy consumption? Now, the next two slides are not meant to be looked at in detail. They're meant to give you an idea of a process. This is an analysis that we used for low-impact buildings, worked with the Zero Carbon Homes Hub, the Communities and Local Government Department, and various others. What you see at the top is the traditional steep factors. We analysed those. We have some overarching principles. And what we've ended up with is a series of things that you have to be able to do over the next 40 years if you're to build and manage domestic housing more energy effectively. And we do mean 80% cut in energy use in the average domestic building and over that time. We have to do it. It's not that difficult. Having started with this analysis, and as I say, it's not the detail that counts, it's the fact that it's there, you can then turn that into a plan. And what this is actually the plan for our low-impact buildings innovation platform, which you'll understand in about 5 slides' time. But what it says is what we're doing, how we're working with various other agencies, how we're looking at regulations and how they affect the environment, and how then we're building capability within the UK buildings industry. That's what we do. Now let's go back and tell you a bit about us. The Technology Strategy Board was a spin-out from government. Its original incarnation was an advisory board set up in 2004 to advise the innovation unit in the then Department of Trade and Industry, for those of you who have memories that long. After a couple of years of operation, it was decided to spin us out as a non-departmental public body at arm's length from government. And one of the things that happened as a result of that was that we had to move out of London. We had to go to Swindon. It's sort of like a banishment, like a gulag. That meant that very few of the civil servants moved with us, and somebody came up with a very clever idea, which was recruiting a bunch of people from industry to be part of this agency. So we're now at about 100 people, having grown a bit from the original 75. But between us, we have over 1,200 years of business experience. So we actually think and act like business people. We work primarily to support innovative UK-based businesses, but we work with universities, which are the source not only of ideas, but of people. And we work with government, both at the national level, to deal with those very large problems, and at the regional level, to see how many of the solutions are implemented. And the headline settlement for the first 3 years of our existence, we're just entering the third year, was £1 billion of funding. That was made up of about 730 million, which was entirely our own responsibility, 120 million of aligned co-funding with the research councils, and 180 million of aligned co-funding with the regional development agencies. So that's what we are. What do we do? Well, there are a number of very large companies which are already globally leading. Most of the pharmaceutical industry has significant presence in the UK because of the output of people, the links to very, very world-class universities. There are only 2 companies in the world that make large aero engines. We have one of them in the UK. We obviously work with them to make sure they maintain their competitive position. But below them, there are a number of companies that are just beginning to put their toe in the global water, that are just beginning to think about world domination in an economic sense. And we work with them. We work with them and we work with the UK Trade and Investment to help them develop their technologies and then reach out to export markets to be able to grow. And lastly, there are those small companies that are just starting out. They don't just come from universities. Many of them come from spin-outs from large companies, from medium-sized companies. Some of them just people have an idea and they have the right capability to be able to develop them. Now, there's an enormous number of companies who therefore fall into those 3 areas. So how do we make decisions? Well, we don't focus on the companies themselves. What we try and do is to pick those sectors and those areas where we believe that the UK has a very strong capability, both in a knowledge sense and in a technological and business sense. And we have 4 criteria that we apply at the bottom. The first 3 you apply in business. You would not set up to develop a new product or service unless you knew the size of the market, those who are already there, the competitive positioning, the likely growth rates and those sorts of things. You would not set up in business unless you knew you had the capability to deliver the products and services that market needed. And you would not set up in business unless you knew that the timing was right. There is no point being 10 years ahead of the market because you don't make money, and there is certainly no point being 10 years behind the market. The 4th question is the one that causes us the most heartbreak, and certainly most of the people who apply to us the most difficulty. The question is simple. Why should the taxpayer help you? After all, we've learned the difference between, that there is no difference between government money and taxpayers' money. It all comes from the same place. So the question is, why should the government help any companies trying to achieve growth? The answer is simple. If you can get there faster or you can get bigger in the process, then it's a worthy investment, because that means that one day there will be more jobs and more tax paid. And that's the Faustian deal we have with the Treasury.